me to be as explicit as possible when explaining it.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I don't feel great when I am fed messages and when I was fed messages as a young girl.
Ryan Reynolds didn't just become one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces. He built a business empire worth billions, and he did it in a way that almost no celebrity had done before him. Aviation Gin sold for up to $610 million. Mint Mobile sold for $1.35 billion. He owns Maximum Effort, his marketing production company. He holds a stake in Welsh football club Wrexham AFC, and he has a significant ownership position in MNTN, a performance advertising technology company. When you add it all up, Reynolds had quietly constructed a business ecosystem valued at well over $2 billion. The strategy behind all of it was remarkably consistent. Reynolds would invest in a company, become the face of its marketing, and then use his personality, funny, self-aware, genuinely likable, to drive the brand's value far beyond what conventional advertising ever could. He didn't just endorse products, he became inseparable from them. And that authenticity is exactly what made everything work. But it also created a single significant vulnerability. When your entire empire is built on public trust, your reputation isn't just personal, it's a financial asset. And that asset can be affected by things entirely outside your control. That's what made the legal battle between Blake Lively and director Justin Baldoni so significant from a business perspective. When Ryan Reynolds' name began appearing in court filings and private text messages entered the public record in January 2026, the story quickly expanded beyond celebrity drama. It became a question with real financial stakes. What happens to a billion-dollar brand when the person at the center of it becomes the subject of headlines he can't joke his way out of? Reynolds' team publicly responded to the lawsuit, which in itself was notable. His entire brand had been built on staying above the noise, keeping things light, never letting the public see anything other than the charming, unflappable version of himself that sold gin and phone plans with equal ease. A formal response signaled that this was different. The text messages that became public didn't accuse him of criminal conduct, but they added a layer of personal detail to a very public story. And for a business model built entirely on likability and trust, that kind of detail has consequences. Not necessarily legal ones, but commercial ones. At the same time, Justin Baldoni filed a $400 million countersuit against Lively, Reynolds, and others involved. Whether or not that figure reflects anything close to the final outcome, the number alone generated headlines. And in business, headlines move fast. The most significant costs in situations like this are rarely the legal fees. They're the deals that get delayed, the partners who become cautious, the opportunities that quietly disappear before they ever become public knowledge. Look at what happened to Blake Lively's hair care brand, Blake Brown Beauty, as a parallel example. Early projections reportedly put first-year sales approaching $100 million. By the end of 2025, outside estimates had fallen to around $15 million. That gap between projected momentum and actual results shows exactly how quickly public perception can reshape a business story. For Reynolds specifically, Aviation Gin and Mint Mobile were already sold. Those wins were locked in. But MNTN's IPO had not yet happened. Maximum Effort still relied heavily on client relationships and future partnerships, and both of those things depend on Reynolds remaining a name that brands want to attach themselves to without hesitation. Then came a signal that was hard to ignore. In late 2025, Paramount reportedly canceled 3 Ryan Reynolds projects that had been in development. In Hollywood, cancellations happen for all kinds of reasons, but the timing drew attention. It suggested that at least some partners were beginning to approach new commitments with more caution than they might have shown a year earlier. Around the same time, Neil Patrick Harris stepped in for a Deadpool-related voice role that many expected Reynolds to fill. For casual fans, that might seem like a minor production detail, but for anyone paying attention to the bigger picture, it carried a different kind of weight. Because Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool had become almost synonymous. The sarcasm, the fourth wall breaks, the relentless wit. For millions of people, watching Deadpool felt like watching Reynolds be himself with a costume on. That's a rare and powerful thing in entertainment. So when even a temporary replacement generated attention, it raised a question that Disney and Marvel clearly didn't want loudly asked. Were they quietly creating distance? When major studios signal caution, sponsors and business partners notice immediately. And then the story grew even larger. In early 2026, messages involving Taylor Swift entered the public legal record, and suddenly the circle of people and brands connected to this story expanded in ways nobody had fully anticipated. The issue wasn't really about Taylor Swift's direct involvement in the dispute. It was about what her name appearing in legal filings represented. When one of the most famous and commercially powerful people on the planet becomes attached to a headline, even peripherally, the story instantly reaches a different level of public attention. Other prominent names, including Vogue editor-in-chief Anna Wintour and actor Matt Damon, were also referenced in the filings. Each additional name confirmed the same thing. This was no longer a contained Hollywood dispute between a director and an actress. It had become an industry-wide story, and it was pulling in some of the biggest figures in entertainment and media.
For any company sitting across the table from Ryan Reynolds considering a new deal, that shift raises one question above all others. Is the upside worth the uncertainty? History offers a very clear answer to what happens when that question starts getting asked. Before 2009, Tiger Woods was generating an estimated $100 million per year from endorsements alone. He was the gold standard of athlete branding, disciplined, dominant, and universally respected. Then his personal life became front-page news, and major sponsors walked away one after another. Within a year, estimates placed his endorsement income at roughly $15 million. That's a drop of approximately 85% in under 12 months. Kanye lost his landmark partnership with Adidas following a series of public controversies. Lance Armstrong watched his entire commercial portfolio collapse once the truth about his career emerged. Different people, different circumstances, same fundamental lesson. When a business is built around a single person, that person's reputation is not just part of the brand, it is the foundation. And when the foundation develops cracks, everything built on top of it becomes.
For any company sitting across the table from Ryan Reynolds considering a new deal, that shift raises one question above all others. Is the upside worth the uncertainty? History offers a very clear answer to what happens when that question starts getting asked. Before 2009, Tiger Woods was generating an estimated $100 million per year from endorsements alone. He was the gold standard of athlete branding, disciplined, dominant, and universally respected. Then his personal life became front-page news, and major sponsors walked away one after another. Within a year, estimates placed his endorsement income at roughly $15 million. That's a drop of approximately 85% in under 12 months. Ye lost his landmark partnership with Adidas following a series of public controversies. Lance Armstrong watched his entire commercial portfolio collapse once the truth about his career emerged. Different people, different circumstances, same fundamental lesson. When a business is built around a single person, that person's reputation is not just part of the brand, it is the foundation. And when the foundation develops cracks, everything built on top of it becomes less stable. Ryan Reynolds' situation is meaningfully different from those examples. The legal dispute did not accuse him of financial wrongdoing or criminal conduct, but it did raise a question that is particularly dangerous for someone whose entire public image is built on being funny, authentic, and trustworthy. Does the public image accurately reflect the private reality? For most businesses, that question is irrelevant. For a brand built entirely on likability, it matters enormously.
which is exactly why MTN represented such a critical piece of the larger picture. Reynolds' ad technology company had been building toward an IPO that many observers believed could surpass even the Aviation Gin and Mint Mobile deals in terms of financial impact. The numbers attached to those previous exits were already remarkable. An MTN IPO had the potential to dwarf both of them. But taking a company public is not simply a matter of strong revenue figures and solid growth metrics. An IPO requires a clean, stable narrative. Institutional investors and underwriters examine everything, including the risks associated with major shareholders. When high-profile litigation is active and ongoing, it introduces variables that complicate both the timing and the potential valuation of a public offering. As of early 2026, MTN's IPO appeared to have stalled. No confirmed launch date had been announced. That doesn't necessarily mean the opportunity has disappeared, but it does suggest that uncertainty had entered the equation in a way it hadn't before. Aviation Gin and Mint Mobile were already done. Those paydays were secured. But MTN was the next major financial chapter in Reynolds' business story, and for the moment, that chapter appeared to be on hold, waiting for the noise to settle before the story could move forward. So the real question becomes, can Ryan Reynolds bounce back? History suggests that reputational setbacks, while costly, are rarely permanent. But the road back depends on three specific things: how the legal situation ultimately resolves, how business partners choose to respond as events continue to unfold, and whether the public maintains its trust in the Ryan Reynolds brand. Because that trust, over the course of the last decade, has been worth billions of dollars. The most honest answer to whether his empire can survive this is probably yes. But the more important question isn't survival, it's whether everything comes back at full strength. If the legal battle winds down without major new developments, the long-term damage may prove to be manageable. Reynolds has already secured the two biggest wins of his business career. The Aviation Gin money is locked in. The Mint Mobile money is locked in. Those chapters are closed, and nothing that happens in a courtroom can reopen them. But future opportunities operate under a completely different set of rules. MTN's IPO has slowed. Studios have grown more cautious about new projects, and the premium that automatically attached itself to Ryan Reynolds' name, the thing that allowed him to walk into any room and immediately elevate the value of whatever he was associated with, may not carry quite the same weight it once did. That doesn't mean the empire crumbles. It means the next chapter could be worth measurably less than it might have been 18 months ago. And when you're operating at this level, even a modest erosion of trust carries a price tag most people will never fully see. That's the real lesson embedded in this entire story. Ryan Reynolds didn't just build companies, he built a machine, a remarkably efficient engine that converted public trust directly into financial value. Aviation Gin, Mint Mobile, Maximum Effort, MTN. 4 different businesses, 4 different industries, one common denominator: the Reynolds brand. The belief that whatever he touched was worth paying attention to, worth investing in, worth buying. That strategy was genuinely brilliant. It produced results that most entrepreneurs spend entire careers chasing without ever getting close. But it carried one structural vulnerability that no amount of clever marketing could eliminate. When your reputation is the product, your reputation is also the risk. A traditional business can absorb controversy in ways a celebrity-driven one simply cannot. A factory keeps producing, software keeps running, supply chains don't care about headlines. But when the entire value proposition of a business is built on a person, on their image, their likability, their perceived authenticity, public confidence becomes a balance sheet item, and it can be repriced overnight. Ryan Reynolds is not Tiger Woods. The nature of what he's facing is fundamentally different, but the underlying business principle is identical. 3 projects reportedly canceled, a Deadpool-related voice role quietly reassigned, an IPO sitting in a holding pattern, private messages entered into the public record, a brand that once seemed completely bulletproof, now facing questions it was never supposed to have to answer. The aviation gin money is safe. The Mint Mobile money is safe. What remains genuinely uncertain is the model that produced them, because this was never really about gin or wireless plans or advertising technology. It was about trust. The specific, carefully constructed, meticulously maintained trust that Ryan Reynolds spent years building with the public. And when that trust starts to wobble, even slightly, even temporarily, even a billion-dollar empire built on it can feel the weight of the shift.